panelists, ladies and gentlemen, caring patriots, all good evening. You're supposed to say good evening back. Gosh, a preacher knows that. You do that in church. At any rate, it's great to be with all of you all here tonight, and I'm really glad to be with key leaders, people who care about the future of our country. You wouldn't be here if you didn't care about the future of our country and these young scouts. In our campaign, it's as much about you as it is about folks that are older. We care about your future. We want America to be in control of our own destiny as a country. Unfortunately, right now, we are vulnerable to outside forces. Why? Because we have dangerous levels of debt and because of our counterproductive energy policies. Both of those have us vulnerable to outside forces. And the reason I'm running is for the future of America, to make sure that you have the same opportunity, young men, as we all inherited from previous generations to achieve or pursue your dreams. And if you work hard, and you learned that from scouting, you're earning those badges, they're not given to you. That's what we need in America, a meritocracy. Everyone has an equal opportunity to compete and succeed based upon their own ingenuity, hard work, diligence, and imagination should be the only limits of what you may do. Now, for our future is why I'm running. And this Senate seat, Virginia's Senate seat, is really important. And we do want to restore the promise of the American dream. Danielle, buenas noches. At any rate, friends, I believe it is time for an American comeback. And it's a comeback based on foundational principles of freedom, of opportunity for all, as well as personal responsibility. What we're seeing out of Washington are mandates, dictates, redistribution, and initiatives sapping dependency on the government. And what we need to do, and many of you may or may not have my blueprint for America's comeback, but it is a pro-jobs growth agenda. It's a plan of action to reinvigorate the entrepreneurial spirit of our country. We need to have positive tax policies, reasonable regulations, productive energy policies, and at the state level and local level, empowering education to make sure America is that land of opportunity for all. I've listened to a lot of Virginians throughout our Commonwealth, and they share my view, and that is that our country's not going in the right direction. I envision a better future than what we are enduring right now with 35 straight months of over 8% unemployment, debt, so high and increasing so rapidly that for the first time in America's history, our creditworthiness has been downgraded. And what we need to do is recognize that while we're frustrated with Washington, we can't give up. There's too much at stake. We have to make an effort and try. There is gridlock, there is strife, but I know from experience that if you run on positive, constructive ideas and the people elect you, and we ran on an audacious agenda when I was running for governor, and we were able to achieve all those results for the people of Virginia, whether it's safer neighborhoods with the abolition of the dishonest, lenient parole system, or welfare reform, or academic standards in Virginia, and a variety of things, including cutting the government and cutting taxes, and all of that was done with the Democrats in control of the legislature. Now, three quick things that I want to share with you, and then I look forward to the cross-examination of the panelists here with you. But the three key things that need to be done in this pivotal election. Number one is energy. Folks, we are number one in the world when it comes to energy resources. We have the resources under our land, we have it under our water, we have the resources and the creativity of the American people. What is missing is the political will to unleash those resources. And if you all hire me on to be your U.S. Senator, I'm going to be like a dog on a bone on energy. I want us to be able in Virginia to be able to produce natural gas and oil off our coast. The Obama administration, along with their ally Tim Kaine, has said no to Virginia. It's absurd. I think it would be one of the first bills I introduce on the first day in the U.S. Senate is allow Virginia to explore for oil and gas off our coast and share the royalties with Virginia. 37.5% is what the precedent is, and I'd say we ought to use it for roads and for transportation. You see what's going on in Washington. I mean, they've got the EPA. Who in the heck elected EPA? No one. And they're trying to impose this cap-and-trade energy tax scheme, which would cause skyrocketing electricity costs in our country. They say no to Virginia. They also said no. Tim Kaine, in the full support of the president, once again, said no to the Keystone Pipeline. That would create tens of thousands of jobs and provide us with affordable, reliable energy from our neighbor and close ally, Canada, rather than being vulnerable to Venezuela or the Middle East. And so if we unleash our energy resources, what would happen? Hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs would be created in America. We'd have more affordable fuel, more affordable groceries, more affordable electricity. We'd be a more competitive country. We'd be more secure as a country. The federal government could get over $1 trillion in revenues without raising taxes, and we'd keep our money here in the United States of America. So that's why energy policy that is positive is so important. Secondly, we need to send a message to the world that America is open for business again. Our federal government imposes the second highest tax in the world at 35% on job-creating businesses, whether they're medium, large, or small. I think we ought to be better than the international average of 25%. That's why in our blueprint I proposed 20%. That alone would create over 500,000 new jobs a year. That's 5 million new jobs over a 10-year period. Thirdly, the federal government needs to be focused on its primary responsibility. The states created the federal government, not the other way around. The federal government was created to make sure we had unimpeded interstate commerce, to make sure our God-given civil rights were protected, and its main function is national security and national defense. And the federal government does need to make sure that we have a strong national defense with the most technologically advanced armaments and protections for our troops while they're securing our liberty. And we do need to keep our promises to our veterans and to their families for the benefits that they have earned. But other than national security, generally speaking, I'd like to see the federal government stay out of our lives and out of our businesses. We need to be trusting the states, the laboratories of innovation. And I was a delegate, had Mr. Jefferson's seat in the House of Delegates and obviously governor. And I think that the states ought to be trusted. They're closest to the people, and too much is being overridden by this federal government, especially these days. And a prime example of it is this Obamacare. When I talk and listen to seniors, they're worried about whether they'll have access to doctors. When I talk to small business owners, this is such an impediment to small businesses. If they're anywhere near 50 employees, they don't want to get over 50 because that'll create all these mandates. If they're actually over 50, some are saying they're going to make their employees part-time, which is awful for the employees who then have to be working at another job because they'll only get 30 hours or less a week in it. Healthcare professionals also are, from orthodontists to all sorts of doctors and hospitals are concerned with it. The individual mandate is an affront to our liberty. And that's another difference with my opponent. Tim Kaine actually said, quote, he thought Obamacare, and I quote, was a great achievement, and he would vote against repealing it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be the deciding vote to repeal Obamacare and then replace it with positive, personal, constructive ideas with personal, for example, health savings accounts where individuals own that insurance and they can take it from job to job and be in control of it with a doctor as opposed to being beholden to the government or to an employer. And so, friends, there's a lot of things that we'll end up discussing here. And I'm just going to say the three key things that I want to get done on the bills I'll introduce on day one if you hire me on in the U.S. Senate. Number one is a balanced budget requirement in the Constitution. We have that here in Virginia. You run your households that way. You run your businesses that way. In addition to a balanced budget, I would have taxpayer protection in it and the line item veto authority for the President of the United States. I used that line item veto authority as governor of Virginia 17 times, and after you use it a few times, they get a message. And I think that's really important. In fact, when I was in Congress representing this area for 1 year before they butchered the district, I introduced exact provisions like this, and we got it to a vote. And part of that provisions was that the debt was to be paid down over 25 years. This was in 1992 that I introduced that. Now just think of what things would be like now if that had passed. That was 20 years ago. And we'd be on our way to actually paying down the debt. And that's a constraint that I think is important fiscally, but it's also will make sure that the federal government is focused on its priorities and letting the states have their experimentations and their ideas. The other thing that I would introduce on day one is allowing Virginia to explore for oil and natural gas off our coast and share the royalties with Virginia. And the third is to really get a discipline and get back to basics in Washington. It's worse than ever. They never get their appropriations bills done on time. It comes to October 1st and they pass a continuing resolution, another one, another. You know, they run through Christmas and, gosh, it's gotten half a year now. Now, is there any contractor in the room here? If you'd raise your hand if there's no. All right. Sir, in the event that you were working on a project, if you did not complete that project on time, would you get paid?
Nope.
No, you sure would. And that's the way it ought to be in Congress as well. If they don't get the appropriations bills done on time, which is their job, what they're paid to do, you withhold their pay. And we really do need to get back to basics. And so those are the sort of reforms that I think make sense. They're common sense, conservative ideas. And what we're trying to do in our campaign is we need all of y'all as part of our A-team. Each and every one of you is absolutely essential. And we need to welcome others. We need to welcome anybody who pays taxes, works for a living, drives the car, uses electricity, or cares about their family. If they meet any of those criteria, they ought to be on our side. And we want to inspire and motivate people for ideas. And these ideas are not pie in the sky. They are proven solutions. We did them in Virginia while I was governor. You can see where it's worked elsewhere around the world. And so I want our country to be competitive. I want our country to be, my time's almost up, I want our country to be that land of opportunity where these young people have those same opportunities, not with the diminished opportunities, but the same potential to achieve your dreams. You're going to be in great positions of leadership because you're in scouting, and all of us older folks here want America to be an even better country than what we lived in. So thank you all so much again for your care, for your concern, and I look forward to discussing ideas for America's comeback with each and every one of you. Thank you all so very much.